Not far from the Big Apple, another big disappointment for the visitors. A giant one, in fact.
You know, that one sucked for sure.
A sputtering offense that was the main culprit this time.
It's the same game plan that we used in the second half that was effective. Unfortunately, we didn't get it done early on.
And yet again, a Commanders performance that left a lot to be desired.
We can all do a better job of just focusing on what our job is and what our responsibility is on each and every play and just taking it one play at a time.
What to make of the latest debacle, and can they get it together before the Eagles come to town Sunday?
To me, it's really about how you bounce back more than it is anything else. With 10 games left to go, you never know what's going to happen.
On this Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus.
The man
Call somebody,
is back,
call
y'all.
somebody.
We're
He's
back.
back. Call
He's
your
back.
mama, call your
Tony
daddy.
is back, and we're back.
We're back.
Tony McGee,
He's back, y'all.
We're back. Tony
Hey.
McGee. Come on.
Tony McGee, Pro Football Plus. Tony McGee, Pro Football Plus. Tony McGee, Pro Football Plus. Tony McGee. What's up?
Welcome to Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus. Now, you do not see me smiling this week because I'm not very happy. When your team has 10 punts, 10 penalties, 7 points, 6 sacks, and 46 total yards at halftime, there's nothing to smile about. People talking about that wasn't good. No, that was pitiful. So what I do, I got my people back in. I got the Donna, the Hopkins, I got the Alex in, and I got the G. But Donna, you said you went out and bought some people that's going to tell the truth.
I did, Tony. I bought in the heavy hitter. Sam 48 from the Washington Post covers the Commanders, and also Anthony Armstrong, former Redskin. I won't say Commander, Redskin. So I bought in people, Tony, because you seem to not tell the truth, and Gary don't know what the truth is. Alex, I'll let you.
Come on, Donna.
Hey, G, you ain't going to let her talk to you like that, man. Come on. You know what the truth is. They couldn't get your receivers the ball the other day. That was the problem, wasn't it?
That was just ugly. I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, it was just so ugly. I mean, I don't know what to say. I'm speechless almost. I don't know.
A lot of people don't know what to say.
I don't know how you can play that bad. I don't get it. I mean, geez.
I think Tony, this is what I don't get is that going into the game that you knew that the Giants was going to bring the blitz. They bought it all year long. That's what they do. They want people to check down. So they were sending 5 to 6 people. So you knew they were going to blitz day one going into this. So my thing is, why did it take you 3 quarters to basically try to figure out what the Giants were doing? Why didn't you have protection, more protection in there, master protection in there for that offensive line that we know that's not 100%. We know that Sam is still learning on the job. So what I can't understand is for them taking 3 quarters to figure it out, and then also they've got a game plan, and they seem like they want to stick to this game plan no matter what. After 2 times down the field, Tony, when Sam was getting sacked time and time again because that blitz was in his face every few seconds. I'm not understanding why they didn't make changes then. 3 quarters, and then you finally changed, and it's a little bit too late. And again, you know that the Giants were going to blitz.
Yeah, but they're trying to formulate habits. They want to get good habits, although they were not that good. But the one thing that I saw that we cannot win if this offensive line is not changed up. That's going to be the big key. We got the skilled people. We got the quarterback that has the potential. But at the same time, he can't do it on his back. And when you only score, now the defense is told to hold a team to 14 points. They score 14 points. We only score 7. We got 10 penalties. Listen to what I'm saying. 10 punts. We come up with 46 yards. That's not a pro effort there. So I'm
but Tony, they were 1 for 15 on third downs, and you're talking about. But I'm still going back to why didn't you have master protection in there from the beginning of the game instead of waiting 3 quarters? You already knew that you needed to do that going into the game.
Maybe it was in there, it just wasn't working.
No, it
What
wasn't
you
in
guys
there.
think about that? Maybe they had max protection. Maybe they were doing the best they thought these guys could do. We got to call
Tony,
it just like we say. You got to say they're going to get their check. They're professionals. They got to do their jobs. That's not happening.
hey Sam, help me out some because again, I'm still on this from the start of the game and everything, knowing what the Giants was going to do, and they did just what they said they were going to do: come at the Commanders every down because they knew that the offensive line, like Tony said, and also, as far as Sam, what did you see from this coaching staff that to me didn't get it done?
Yeah, I would say two big points there. One is, they had some of those packages where they brought Cornelius Lucas in as the sixth offensive lineman. They didn't really get to that until the second half. And I asked Cornelius, had you practiced that in the game plan all week? He said yes. And I was like, why didn't they use it earlier? And he kind of shrugged. And so I think that particularly when, the first half they blitzed on 10 of 20 dropbacks and they generated pressure on all 10 of them and some dropbacks where they didn't blitz, it was a surprise that they didn't adjust. But Ron Rivera said today that, he's been fine with the offensive play calling. The second thing that I think is maybe a little bit even more interesting just because of who this player is Terry McLaurin, a very diplomatic guy, not one of those, not a diva receiver as people, know can sometimes happen. He actually went out of his way in the locker room to say that he's really spoken to and emphasized to Eric Bieniemy, to wide receivers coach Bobby Ingram to say, hey, when we're getting pressure, when we're blitzing, I think that I can win on the outside in single coverage and man-to-man coverage like the Giants are playing a lot of. I think that down the field, go routes and things like that are essential to an offense, particularly against pressure. And so it was notable to me that Terry is not a guy who questions his coaches or will say things or speak up very often, but he felt compelled to yesterday.
And I tell you, Sam, that's a good point. Gary, I was going to come to you at this point anyway. It seemed as though Terry was having a great day. He ended up with 99 yards on 6 catches. But should they have not gone to him earlier and more often?
Well, I mean, it just really depends on what they're bringing. Like Donnie said, if you got max protection, that leaves you one-on-one. I mean, Double A knows that. If you get max protection, they're bringing everybody. You go to 2 receiver routes, you're one-on-one. So the key is just being able to get open, which we all know Terry's going to be able to do. All our receivers, I mean, our receivers they're really, really good at what they do. I mean, they really are. But, if you don't get max protection and for basically you're going to bring that third receiver in, that third receiver is going to stay in and block. You don't need to bring in the tight end. You can bring in the third receiver to right. Ricky Sanders did it all the time. You put 2 receivers on route, they're one-on-one. You can't ask for a better situation than that, and you should make the play work. But they never went to a max protection. They didn't. When they did go to the max protection, they brought in a tight end so people knew that they were going to a max protection, additional player. Like, you should be able to run your offense the way you want to run your offense. It's built in automatically. You treat your, like we used to call Robert or Larry. Larry was meant max protection, Robert meant max protection. They call it the line of scrimmage. So we know now, and then Ricky knew that he's going to come in, help out, chip out, in the backfield to help the quarterback get more protection, and we was in one-on-one receiver out. So, I mean, I'm not sure what's going on. I mean, they never look the same each week. They never look the same each week.
That's 100% right, and that's what I was about to say. They never look comfortable with each other. And when Anthony, if you take a look at it, you tell me those running backs look like they are confused. But what confuses me is whenever they do have a good run, seems like we go away from the run. But it seems as though we're always confused a little bit. We never look like a unit out there. Does it look like that to you?
I mean, I'm watching all the way from Texas, Tony, and it definitely looks that way. I think every single game this season, you've gotten a different Commanders team. I mean, you've got the grit and the fight to come back against Denver, to come back against a Philly, to battle Philly all the way to overtime, but then you drop a game against a lowly Chicago team, and then you go down there and you dominate against Atlanta. So it's like, I don't know what you're going to get each week. And I'm frankly, I don't want to hear this has been happening for 7 years. I don't want to hear all that. I don't need to hear the on script, wrestling promo about how you have to do better. Is at the point now where you don't talk, you just show up and play ball. You know what I mean? You just got to show up and do better. And frankly, I think that they have to make something happen from the front office. They need to make some shift happen because when you don't have a bye week until week 14, you don't have a chance to really sit back and kind of self-scout. All you can do is try to turn the page and get on to your next opponent. But when you're going up against Philly coming up here and they're not going to take it easy on you and feel bad for you because you had a tough loss. Philly's trying to run the score up. So they're going to have to trade somebody, make some things change so that people can understand that this is a business and the lip service in the media is not going to cut it. It's all about getting active on the field.
Well, you know, Alex, and I asked you this, and Donna said that, why do you think we see good things and then they just go away? And just what Anthony said, it's just like in grade school when I was in, we had arithmetic. Y'all don't even call it that anymore. But all it is add,
math,
divide, add, subtract, and divide. That's what this team need to do right now. I agree with that totally. I think they need to make some changes, even if they have to get someone off the bench. You got to change this atmosphere and this attitude right now, Alex. And do you not seeing them do that? Now, they have start working more running backs in and everything. That's not helping. They got to do something with that offensive line.
Tony, the one stat, and there's a litany of stats that are just absolutely insane. The one that jumps out to everybody, I'm assuming, is the Giants had 5 sacks coming into this game. They'd only played 5 games. We can all do the math. That's 1 a game. They had 6. They had 6 in 1 game. They did more against the Commanders than they had in every other game combined, and then some. I don't know what that is. I don't know. Listen, there's plenty of blame. Offensive line, scheme, quarterback holding the ball too long. None of those things are good. But all you need to know is if your quarterback can't stay upright, and for whatever reason, I'm with you. Early in the game, I'm watching. They get a good run, 6-yard run on first down. They just picked up another first down. They're kind of moving. I mean, this is not the 49ers, okay, back in with Bill Walsh, but you take what you can get. They kind of got a little something going. Then they're in shotgun in 2nd and 4, and they throw something and it doesn't work, and then they take a sack. And it's like, just like that, a little momentum can just disappear. Some of it's got to be coaching. Some of it, I'm sure, is personnel. I don't know. And Anthony's right. Every week, it's something different. They can look great coming back against Denver, a lowly team, albeit. They can look great in a narrow loss at Philly. But then they can do this against the Bears, and then they can do this against the Giants. Teams get well against this football team, and they know it. And they know it. So I don't know, Tony. I don't know that you could even change that much. I mean, trade Chase Young and get something for him. Like, what's that going to do about?
Oh, you don't want to trade him now? You don't want to trade him?
I don't know, Tony. I don't know.
He's playing too well. He's playing too well right now. I don't think we can do. Chase was our subject a few weeks ago, and we will get to the defense on that for the simple aspect. They did better second half, but we'll tell you why. But going back to the offense, Donna, do you think they really know that Terry is their number 1 weapon? Do they realize that?
Well, Tony, I think they do. They tried to get him to the ball, but when you're only 1 for 15 and you're struggling on offense and you can't even get the ball, down the field because the Giants are in your face all the time. I think they had 2 80-yard drives and they came away with 0 points, Tony. I mean, and then they get a field goal blocked and everything. It's just one disaster after the other. I wanted to tell you something that Ron Rivera said in his Monday press conference. He said that they're not going to trade for anybody. They're not going to get rid of any coaches or anything like that. People got to realize that, this is a new offense that they're still trying to, grasp a hold of and everything. But my thing is that if you needed change at this point, no matter who it is, I mean, as far as trading to bring new people in, offensive line, because there's problems right there. Why wouldn't you do that? And I mean, I think that sometimes that these coaches are stubborn as far as seeing maybe some of the things we're seeing. I'm like, you're looking at those film every week and everything, and for not to look at the possible, of changing some things and trying some new things, Tony. But before you jump on everybody else to get them into this conversation, let's go to the locker room to hear what the players have to say after this, because the offensive line said they just did not get the job done.
Doing our best to get the call from 14 and, doing our best to execute it. But, sometimes they bring more than we got and, just stuff like that. And, plain and simple, we just weren't picking up the pressure, though. Drives weren't hitting in the first half. And, we kind of changed up the game plan, figured out how to, pick up the pressure they were bringing. And, I feel like we came out the second half with a, freshly tuned game plan. Had some good drives. We added some tight ends. Max pro'd it up, blocking with 7 people. A lot of turn protections too, so we'll be clear on one side no matter what type of thing. And then we had some plays where we're moving the pocket around, changing up the throwing locations.
We knew they were going to bring the house. We knew they were going to play zero. I've been saying it all week. We knew they were going to test us man-to-man. It was about getting our playmakers the ball on the outside, and that's what we did in the second half. That's why we had some success.
Jahan, how tough was it out there in that first half after you all made the adjustments in the second half?
It was really tough. Just trying to get things going. It seemed like we didn't have, any type of, I don't know, we didn't have anything going, honestly. And we can't do that. We preach fast starts, and to get off to a slow start against anyone in this league is not going to put you in a great place. So we gotta bounce back and make sure we play all 60 minutes of the game. I know the capability of myself. I know I make those plays all the time with my eyes closed. So not being able to make that play, it hurts for sure. And I'm going to let it hurt because that's the only way I'm going to get better because I don't want to feel like this again.
It just felt like we didn't really execute like we needed to, especially in the first half. You can't let a team blitz your face off. And, we didn't really have a lot of answers for that. We prepared, but we didn't execute like our preparation, like we tried to prepare for this week. So you got to give them credit for their aggressiveness. Second half, I felt like we came out a lot better. When you get those opportunities when teams are blitzing like that, at least one-on-one opportunities, and I felt like we got to that late. And as the season goes on, we're approaching about the halfway point, so we have to be able to turn the corner and not making the same mistakes, starting faster, finishing better. So the teams who are going to make those playoff push as the season go along are the teams that figure that stuff out.
We're going to have to hit that when we come back down. But the one thing I do want you to answer me after this break, everybody seemed to know what was happening. Why didn't they do anything about it? We're going to take a break right now and find out on the other side.
Next.
Now, during that break, if I wanted to get some potato chips, I'd make sure I go out and get enough. Now, we're talking to these players, they talk about we knew they were going to blitz. We knew they were going to this. We prepared and everything. And Donna, why didn't they do something about it?
Well, again, that's that master protection coming in, Tony, as far as from the beginning of the game. And I think that if you throw that in, we may be talking about a different thing. But Anthony said it in the beginning. You don't know what team is going to show up each week. I mean, you know what the team is going to do. The Giants did what they said they were going to do. But this Washington team, I'm sure they practiced with Sam blitzing all week last week in practice and everything. But I'm not for sure why it didn't develop and why you didn't put those things in the beginning, Tony. But you know what? I guess we're kind of like putting the offense to bed because they didn't do anything. And I guess we'll go over to the defense, who you think that played better, but they were going against a Giants offensive line that basically haven't had the same 7 all game long. And they were bringing in players off the couch to play this past week, Tony.
Well, the first half, they didn't do as well as we thought they should. Giants didn't have any 20-yard gains in other games, but they had 5 20-yard plays in the first half alone. That's not good. But at the same time, this team did what they were supposed to do second half. They held them down to 14 points. Anthony, you can tell them about that. And any of you guys that have played, that's what you want to hold a team to 17 or less points. So I look at that defense, and then I start looking at things they were doing well. They were containing the quarterback a lot better. But at first they had Tyrod. I thought the young man had come up from Baltimore and was playing against them. But at the same time, second half, they came back and did a good job. That's good. But you did a good job against a bunch of second stringers, Anthony. And you got to answer this one with you because your name is same as mine. You know it wasn't that good.
When I look at it, it's tough. It's tough to digest. I know we're staying on the defensive side. They did have some bright spots, but what I didn't like was that they were able to get beat deep. I like Benjamin St. Juste, but giving up some plays against Jalen Hyatt, you got to prepare a little bit better. Know your opponent a little bit better. He's a speed guy. And over the recent weeks, just like Alex has said, teams wake up against this Commanders defense. Atlanta hadn't thrown the ball all year. It was a joke that they traded for a receiver, and then they come out and start throwing it against Washington. It's one of these things that you got to expect this from everybody. You're expecting everybody's best. Okay, this isn't just college where you just show up and everybody's just going to figure it out on the go. Like, teams are prepared. Teams are really prepared, and it was good to see Chase Young and the defensive line get active. But man, it does get frustrating when you're not breaking up passes in the secondary, and there seem to be people catching passes wide open. But all year, you came into the season, you knew offensive line and linebacker were going to be your two positions that you really had to pay attention to, and teams are taking advantage of that. So now find ways to adjust with what you got at the linebacker position. Put some people in there that can cover tight ends and running backs out of the backfield, and find ways to make adjustments. So I'm looking for Jack Del Rio to add some spice to this defense and do something that's going to slow teams down for the rest of the year.
Like the Giants did, bringing that pressure every down.
Yeah, well, see, if you're going to bring pressure, though, then you got to cover on the back end. And that's one of my biggest things. Like, I'm fine with it, but you're going to have to tighten up. Now you got to play tighter. You have to understand how the blitz is going to affect yourselves in the secondary. I look at Forbes. I love Emmanuel Forbes, but when he was playing against Philly, like, you can't slip on your transition and try to swat the ball down with the inside hand. Like, those two things don't go together. If you slip, now you just got to go make the tackle. And a lot of that from across the board on this team is youth, quarterback youth, cornerback youth, and those guys have to learn how to play the game at this level. It's not coming as fast as we'd like, but I also got to understand Emmanuel Forbes was going up against a murderer's row, if you will, of receivers. From Stephon Diggs, A.J. Brown, and just the list went on and on. They're learning, they're getting better, but man, I need them to get better a little bit quicker because Philly's coming into town soon.
Hey, Sam, you know what? I think Anthony has made a great point. I'm going to ask your opinion on it. Yes, Forbes is getting better and everything, but do you think it's still wise that every time you make a play, you're pointing up at the camera or you pointing to yourself or something, then you come back and get beat? Yes, these young players have to learn how to play, but they don't have to learn how to perform. Am I correct on that?
I think that Anthony made a great point as well about, Benjamin St. Juste needed to learn the opponent a little better. They obviously took two deep shots to Jalen Hyatt early on and then came back to it later on. And then to your point, Tony, about Emmanuel Forbes, his confidence in sort of how that manifests and him pointing at the camera, I think is actually one that is a really big question mark, because if you're confident in Emmanuel Forbes, you take him, you think he's the best corner in the draft besides Witherspoon at Illinois, you still are showing him a lot of respect by saying, hey, in your fourth, fifth NFL game, we're going to have you on A.J. Brown, who is a difficult matchup because he's a strong guy who runs a lot of really good go routes, whereas Emmanuel doesn't have as much size. And so, when he struggles in those matchups, I want, and against DJ Moore in Chicago as well, I wonder if you're putting him in the right position as a coach. If as a coaching staff, you go to more man and you're saying this is the way we're going to beat Justin Fields, I think that might be a schematic misjudgment. And so Emmanuel Forbes, when he struggles in those situations, if he loses confidence, that makes sense, right? Like any player who's given up that amount of yardage, those scores, is going to react that way. So is there a better way to insulate him? Is there a better way to play defense? I know Jack Del Rio loves quarters. He loves, a lot of zone coverage, like a lot of defenses in the NFL right now. But I just wonder if you're putting Emmanuel Forbes in the best position to succeed, and if you're minimizing his role, how can you then bring him back against the team that really shot his confidence the first time in Philly? They're in a really difficult position with their first round pick right now.
I'm glad you asked that, because I was going to ask you, G-Man. G-Man, I know you used to work them people just like they were working dogs. You had some kind of tip. Is the defensive backs tipping off what they're trying to do? Are they tipping out if it's a zone or if it's a man-to-man? Is it something, if you were playing against them, you see that you could take advantage of?
I think with me, my training was a little different. I trained so hard that I was not going to. I didn't care about what the defender did. Like a lot of times, I would tell the defender what play I was going to run because I was that confident I was going to get open. It was just that part. But I did my training part of it. We have great receivers, so there's no excuse for our DBs, period, not to play good against other great receivers because we have 4 great receivers on our team. If you play one-on-one coverage in practice the entire week, you should become really good at it. Now, if the gentleman had a bad game against the team before, I come back. If anything, I build up. Like I don't reject myself. I don't feel like, oh, I got to go against these guys again. My ego's too big to let that happen. My thing is, I'm gonna get in your ass. I made a mistake, but I'm gonna get you this time around. I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna get you this time around. So I need the guys to start playing that are stars to start playing like they're stars. I need the stars to play like they're stars because that's gonna be the people that come back and play. And if you're not a star anymore, and there's a guy that's quote unquote second team, because we all were second team at some point in our career. Maybe that second team is really a first team guy. So at the end of the day, that's all I'm saying is like, I want to know who I got, who's going to go out there and who's going to fight, who's going to come out there and win. Because at the end of the day, I can't just go home. I think if the team is just going home and be like, we'll get them next time, then they ain't one on my team. It's just not. I don't want that guy on my team.
Get the money jar out. We're in trouble.
You know what? I just said mother and Flucker. Flucker is not a curse word.
Well, you know what you said. You know, BP.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Gary.
Hey, Tony, if we look at the Giants, and they just play the Giants, and we know the Giants is not like the Philadelphia Eagles who destroyed the Detroit Lions, who are a much better team than the Giants are. I don't know what happened.
We thought they were.
But Tony, the Philadelphia Eagles, Jalen Hurts was in a brace in the second half of that game on Sunday, but he still came back to play. So we don't know who's going to be the quarterback on Sunday, but still you can believe the Eagles remember that tight game with Washington. So when you look at the Eagles in this matchup again, and Washington played them well, but if they don't, they're going to take a page from the Giants as far as we know how to kind of like shake up Washington this time around, because you can believe that they were watching some of that, and their defense is way better than the Giants. How do you all see that game playing out as far as, you know, if it's not Hurts, and also as far as this Eagles the second time around, because the Commanders come in 0-2 in the division already. You know you can't get down that far in the division if you're planning to move forward and trying to make a run.
Well, you know, when you're going against the Eagles, you know you're going against a great offense and defensive line. So therefore, our offensive line have to be better, and our defensive line have to play up to potential. And if that happens, and I want to ask you this, Alex, it seems as though somebody put a fire up under that defensive line, because that's the first game I've seen where all 4 of them really contribute to it, and it was really a good game second half for them.
Tony, you're talking about the Commanders, right? You're not talking about the Eagles. Which D line?
Yeah, I'm talking about the Commanders.
You got Alex confused.
Yeah. No, listen, the defense, 14 points to an NFL team, albeit a challenged offensive team like the Giants, you should win 90% of the ball games. Defense played fine. I mean, it was kind of funny, is probably the wrong word, but as soon as announcers start talking about the Giants haven't scored a touchdown, then you know it's coming. Not just one, but 2. They haven't blocked a field goal since blocked field goal. You know what's happening, Tom, to this team. Defense played fine. Chase Young played great. He had 2 sacks. That's not the problem. The problem was the offense. You can't score 7 points against the Giants. I don't care where the game is. I don't care how windy it is. I don't care about any of that. Defense was fine. Problem is, next week, the offense might play better and score 27, and the defense could give up 42. This is what happens. They can't both get in sync. Defense was fine. 14 points ought to win you 9 out of 10 games in the National Football League, but not when you score 7, because it won't win you any if you only score 7.
Well, I tell you what, when you score 7, that makes it hard on the defense as well as the offense. But you know, one thing, when we do come back, and I know we're going to a break soon, but when we come back, one thing we can talk about that's a positive. So we'll jump around a little and say our special teams are starting to make plays. But before we get to there, I just want to say one thing. I think that this team right now, this is a pivotal game. They can't afford to lose it, even though Philadelphia is supposed to be that good. But right now, if they're going to make way, we got to stop making excuses, and they need to stop making excuses. Everybody's professional out there. Everybody get paid. You go out there and play. So when we come back, we can at least now start talking about how positive we are that the special teams are making plays. They gave us many opportunities to win on Sunday. We just didn't take advantage of it. We'll be right back.
What's up?
Now, Magic scored a lot of points in basketball, and he got a lot of points. So one thing he do know how to do, they need points, and you can't win it, Donna. 7 points. Come on now. I know you can
Hey,
talk about.
Tony, you know what? Magic can't even
He can't step
comprehend.
up. You can talk about the offensive line or this or that. 7 points ain't gonna get it. I make it score that in a basketball game, even though you
No,
can't.
you can't do that. You can't even score in a basketball game. You'll be right there with the Commanders trying to get down the court to do something. But, you know, Magic is used to winning, Tony. He's used to putting points up. But you look at this Eagles team, Tony, you've got coming in. Sam, want to throw this to you. Jalen Hurts is hurt right now. We don't know which quarterback is going to show up. How do you see his play? Because when you look at his play this season, he hasn't been, at the top of his game. They've been winning and everything, but he hasn't been the strong Jalen Hurts that he was when he finished last season. How do you see him coming into game number 2 against the Commanders?
Yeah, I think, what we saw from him last year to this year, we haven't seen him hit as many go balls, I think, which is a strength of his game. And we didn't see him hit as many as he did before. So I think that if you can contain him, if you can keep him in the pocket, attack the mesh point when they go to those RPOs, I think that's a start. But obviously, as you've seen, I think the physicality of not just Jalen Hurts, but that offensive line, as guys have mentioned before, like that is a concern, I think, for Washington, not just on offense for the Eagles, but also on defense, because as we've talked about, the offensive line has some struggles as well. And I think you could trace that all the way back to the personnel department, because there were multiple warning signs that the offensive line would be a question mark. They had 3 problems last offseason in terms of the offense, quarterback, line, offensive coordinator. They made 2 big switches at coordinator and quarterback, but they didn't do as much on the offensive line. So I think that's a big question mark. I wonder about the approach. But going back to your point of your question about Jalen Hurts, I think that obviously if he's less than 100%, that's good for the Commanders. You never want that for somebody, but he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league for a reason, and they got to prepare for him no matter what.
But you know what they find out in a quarterback, old or young. If you think about that with Jalen, his first year in Philadelphia, so teams hadn't figured out what his game plan was, but they do see it now. He's strong, he can run, he got the long ball. So it's taken a year that they figured it out. And those coordinators work all off season to figure him out. And that's what they're doing right now. So he got to add something to his game each and every week that'll be something they don't know about. And I just hope he doesn't do that against us. But speaking of adding to your game, Alex, Philadelphia is a complete team, and that means special teams as well. Is it nice seeing our special teams doing something really positive for a change?
Tony, I hear you. I think I hear you correctly from Georgia. Did you see the blocked kick, Tony?
Yeah.
Put
your glasses on, Tony.
I'm talking about I want anything.
It's a one-score game. Riverboat Ron says, I'm going to play it cool here. I'm not going nuts. I could try to go for 4th and 4 or whatever it was, and then, tie the game or take the lead with a 2-point conversion. Nah. I'm going to take the give me field goal. There's only one problem. Dude blocked the kick, Tony. I don't know what you're talking. I mean, listen, that's kind of big. I hear you about trying to find some shred of positivity. There was a nice return from the one fellow, the kick return.
Thank you.
We do a special teams player of the week every week. part of my job here is to figure out who that is, because we can't give it to Tressway every week. So I'm thinking this did maybe the kicker will make this, and this no. We had to give it to Tress. We got to give it to Tressway. Tony, can anybody else answer for Tony about the special teams? Because I'm at a loss.
I just like
put
that.
some glasses on.
Man, look.
Better
Put some glasses on. Because
Tony,
no,
you
but
can't miss a 25-yard field goal in crunch time, and then the next day talk about the special teams was good.
Yeah, if you get a kick block that you honestly it's like not writing your name on the test, Tony. You can't give them a positive for having something that was supposed to be simple execution. It'd be different if it was like, hey, a 63-yarder, we're gonna give it a try, low trajectory. No, this is simple execution. And when I'm at the house watching that, I'm like, you just feel defeated that like nothing gets going right. Nothing gets to going right. But I do have to commend Jamison Crowder. You do want to give something positive. He's going to be your one shred of positivity. He made some plays. He got some things going. But just like Alex said before, I mean, this is a team to where you need all pistons moving at the same, clip. I mean, earlier in the year, the defense gave the offense enough time to score points. And this was one of those games where the offense never got going. But going up against Philly, tough team. Tough team. I mean, and you talk about Jalen Hurts. Is he going to be there? Don't worry. He'll be there. Bill Belichick said that. Anytime that it doesn't matter if they're on the injury report, he will be there. And if Jalen Hurts doesn't show up, then you say, okay, well, thank God. We are very thankful that you don't have to deal with Jalen Hurts right now. But Philly's coming out there they're going to come out there angry, and they're going to come out there wanting to put up some points, and they're going to be hungry. And frankly, this is one of them weeks where, like you said, way back in the beginning, Curtis Samuel, I'm going to need you to chip on the way out. Chris Rodriguez, AG, chip on the way out. You do not leave the backfield without hitting some color. That is the number one rule this week. And if you don't see that adjustment really, now I hate to do it, but I got to question EB. I'm like, come on now. You can't keep trying to bang your head against the wall doing the same thing. You see your offensive line is like Swiss cheese. Please. Give your quarterback some help. Swiss cheese, little melted Swiss cheese over a rye and some ham. You know what I mean?
But
dinner
Anthony,
time.
that means that you as close to EB as Donna, because you're the only two that I've heard call him EB. So
we know how
Donna really is
look here.
She just pulling our leg.
Look here, EB, Eric Bieniemy, Coach, all of them. One of them need to go up there and make some changes and make some adjustments. Serious. I mean, just everybody can't run routes. I mean, you got so much talent. You name all the people on offense. Too much talent. But it doesn't matter if you can't throw the ball, you can't get it out. And then the second thing is, even though Sam is learning on the go, he is going to have to trust his playmakers. The throw against Denver was his best throw all year long. Throwing it up over three people to Terry McLaurin. Everybody say don't do it until he catches that pass. That's trusting your receiver. I'm sure Gary had plenty of plays where he just told the quarterback, like, man, forget it. Just throw it over here. You can't cover me. Yeah. Right? So
okay, I know you and Gary been hanging out.
I said Flucker. I put the L in there for sure. But I know this much. Gary's had those opportunities where he looked over and said, man, just throw me the rock. I got you. And you've got dogs outside that are able to make those plays. And Sam he's seeing too many things. I mean, it's simple, but it's confusing because it's a lot happening at one time, and he just needs more reps. But just trust your playmakers. Throw it up to 17, throw it up to 1, and let them make something happen for you.
Yeah.
Hey,
Tony,
I don't know if you got to go to break. I don't know if you got to go to break, but what scares you most about this Eagles team the second time around?
Brown. That's what I was getting ready to ask G.
AJ
he
Brown.
Can answer when we come back. But the receiver, he is so good right now, G. And you tell me, do you think our defensive backs can handle him? He's killing everybody. And I mean, he's not just making regular catches. He's making spectacular catches and making them look regular.
Oh, he's a beast. He's a beast. I mean, that's
big and strong.
Oh yeah, I mean, he's just a beast. He's like he could be one of those guys who actually tell the DBs what route he's going to run and have enough confidence to run it and make that catch. But the best thing about receivers too is we lie too. I can tell you I'm running post and I'm really running corner. So I'll do that too. I'll lie to you about what I'm going to run as well. So I mean, but if you're going to perform in this league, you got to be the guy that shuts that down. If I'm a shut down corner, I got to be the guy to shut that down. I want to cover him because I want to shut that down. Like back in the day, D Green would have just covered him. It's been what it is. Like, this is my job. Everybody else go do what you got to do. I got this guy. You need somebody with that type of machoism, quite honestly, to play this game.
And you know,
Hey,
you
Tony,
see
you
that.
got to go to break. You
Yeah,
got
we
to
got to
break.
go to break. But I just got to say this, Donna. You kept asking me and you and Alex about the special teams positive reinforcement. We'll be back in a moment.
I'm going to tell you about Dustin Hopkins.
Hey guys, I'm back again. Pro Fitness for Everyone. Today is going to be a great day for us and for everybody. And once you start to pull, you got 20 pulls now. They got to be strong. It can't be no little baby stuff.
Oh, be quiet. I know how to do it.
Okay, yeah, I know, but yeah, I have to say that. Because I feel like if I don't, you might just go through the emotion. You know, because you're going to take. Here we go. And go.
Well, you know, Ricky Irvin's got me back to working out again, a great workout again, because he's whipping me in shape before the holiday. And Tony, he's still waiting for you.
You don't mess with perfection. You know that.
Well, I don't know. Why you talking?
Hey, Tony.
You don't mess with perfection.
Tony, speaking of perfection, speaking of working out, you're a D lineman. My question for you, the Eagles, undoubtedly, this week at Washington, if they got 4th and 2 or 4th and 1, they're doing the tush push, the brotherly shove, as folks are calling it. You're a D lineman. A, could you stop this thing, or why can't people stop this? Other teams don't do it as well as they do, but they are like perfect with this thing. What do you think?
Well, you know what it is. If you look at other teams, the quarterbacks are not like Jalen. And the one thing about him, he squats 600 or 700 pounds. And if you notice, whenever they do this push, he allowed the 3 linemen in front of him, the center and the 2 guards. They get so low, and their center of gravity is so low. All he does is hesitate for a minute. Now, if you look at other quarterbacks, they're always trying to find an area where they can get into. All he does is wait for them to get low, then he starts pushing, and then 2 men behind him. It is incredible right now. That which is going to be something that people will have to work on to stop it, because it's unstoppable. And Jalen is the big reason, because when you got a quarterback that can squat like that, he can always hesitate and pick his place. He doesn't look for a place to go. He makes a place to go.
Well, Tony, let's go around the league right now. Let's go up the road to Baltimore. They beat the Detroit Lions, and they beat them, Tony, 38-6. Lamar Jackson almost flawless in that game, in that win. I mean, when you look at his stats and everything, I think they had 3 straight or 4 straight touchdowns to start it off. How do you see that Baltimore team? Because they were hitting all the receivers, but were you surprised that the Detroit Lions only scored 6 points? And I thought it would be a much better game than what we saw.
I knew the scoring. I'm surprised at the scoring, but I'm not surprised at the aspect that their defense is still a little bit behind their offense. And Lamar Jackson, we have said and indicated 4 weeks ago, they have 7 to 8 people out. As those people come back and he gets his stuff back together, they will be a very dangerous team. All they did was expose the Lions. We know the Lions have had a great offense for the last few weeks, but at the same time, they haven't never had that great of a defense. And you can see when they get down, that changes their offense. So Lamar, they are ready to start kicking, and they're at the right time, always halfway. You start looking at other teams. You look at the 49ers, you look at Cowboys, you look at all these teams around the league. Everybody is trying to get their niche. And that answers a question that we had in the first period of the show is, why are they not changing? Why? Because EB, as you call him, I call him Coach. He's trying to establish a routine. And that's what you see with all these good teams, and that's what you see all around the league. So I tell you what, Jackson and them are coming on, and there's a lot of them. But then you have to look at the other game. Everybody was talking about how great Miami is. But you see what offense and defense will do. Defense wins championships.
Yeah, well, let's talk a little bit about the division that the Baltimore is in, and Gary, you and Alex can jump in. You got Pittsburgh, who looked like that they were going to cave in. They were going to be struggling this season, and all of a sudden they're right back in the scope of that division. How do you see that playing out as far as the Steelers right now? We already talked about the Ravens, but looking at the Pittsburgh Steelers, who to me is starting to play really great. That's one of our games this week as far as the Jags at the Steelers.
Well, I mean, Steelers got great coaching, and the players like their coach. They play for their coach. It's like when we had Coach Gibbs, we played for Joe. We wanted to come out. We wanted to go. We wanted to win for Joe, especially if the season wasn't going as well as we wanted it to go. Because we have those seasons too, where you're struggling a little bit, so you bond together so you can play for your coach. Because nobody likes people talking bad about your family. I think the Steelers are playing strong for their coach because some people started to doubt the coach a little bit in Pittsburgh, and I think the players are not going to have that. I picked them to win again this week, quite honestly.
Hey, Alex, what's happening with the Buffalo Bills? They lost again to the Patriots, who was basically, done, struggling and everything. Look, Brady ain't there no more, Gary. But what has happened to the Buffalo Bills? Because they've lost 2 straight games. I mean, they lost that game 29-25. They struggle in this game. Everybody picked the Buffalo Bills to be one of the top teams this year, but they seem like that they're falling apart.
A couple things. It's a division game, and as Gary knows and Tony knows from playing the Giants back in the day when they weren't good, although they kind of always were decent, or Philly or even Dallas when they weren't good. Those division games are their own animals. So I think, losing to the Patriots, even though it's an upset, that division thing, these teams know each other so well. Belichick is still Belichick. They're not them without Brady, obviously. He probably can still coach up some defense and figure out a way to scheme against Josh Allen and Diggs because they see him twice a year, every year. But it's like this league. I mean, Eagles lose to the Jets. Nobody saw that happening. And then they come back and look great against the Dolphins, who everybody thought was like the next best thing. And they might be. But 17 weeks, it's a long deal. And these teams that we think are somewhat invincible, the Bills are great. They can be beat. Everybody's been beat so far. Dolphins look great one week, then they lose. Dallas looks great one week, then they lose. Kansas City's finding their stride. They seem to be the class of the AFC with Baltimore kind of quietly in there. Back to what Gary said about the coaching. So it's fascinating when Gary talks about winning for Joe. Like, that's amazing. Tomlin, as many folks know, has never had a losing season. That doesn't seem possible. I mean, every once in a while, injuries, whatever, a couple bad bounces, you go 7-9. No, that they don't do this there under that guy. He's a heck of a coach. So is Belichick. Listen, as soon as I saw that the Patriots won, because there's a game where you think Commanders, okay, that's a real winnable game. Patriots aren't very good. Well, they're good enough to beat Buffalo. And they're good enough to beat Buffalo. They're good enough to beat Washington in 2 weeks when they're playing up there in Foxborough.
Wash your mouth out, Alex. Wash your mouth out. Travis Kelce, I just want to throw this in. He had 12 catches, 179 yards. But, Tony, I want to go to you in this last game. The Browns at Seattle. And the Browns beat the Colts 39-38. They're 4-2 right now. It was a lot of controversy at the end in that game, but the Browns were without Watson and they still won that game. How do you see this Browns team right now? Because they're right there, in the mix with the Steelers and the Ravens, but the Browns pulled it out at the end with Hurts getting the winning touchdown.
Well, I can say one thing. We have to take a break, but at the same time, you only need to say one thing. They're doing it with defense. And they have one of the best defenses in the league. And if they can continue to do that, to Watson gets well and other people get well, as I told you at the beginning of the season, Browns is going to be one of the tougher outs in the playoffs. Speaking of tougher outs, I think I did pretty good on the picks this week. We got another tie. We got somebody in second, but I think we came back. But I tell you what, it's tough. And you know what? If we keep doing like we're doing, they'll take that away from us too. We'll be back in a moment.
In the Minute with Tony and Donna. You can catch them weekly on their podcast, and you can also subscribe to their YouTube channel, In the Minute. Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus Speakers Bureau offers you various opportunities to connect with former and current players along with Tony and the crew. For more information, go to redmagplus.com Speakers Bureau.
One more thing.
39 years. Not many shows can claim a streak like that, but Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus sure can. Tony McGee, a burgundy and gold legend on the field and for decades now on the air, is once again excited to bring his one-of-a-kind program to his legion of fans across the Mid-Atlantic. How to last so long? By always delivering unique, insightful, entertaining, and oh yeah, fun, lots of fun, week in and week out. Tony's cast includes the legendary Gary Clark, the impeccable Donna Hopkins on the burgundy and gold beat for decades now, as well as icons from Washington football, past and present, not to mention the Pro Football Hall of Famers who flock to Tony's show year in and year out. There is not a show dedicated to football fans like this one, and the proof is in the almost 4 decades that Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus has been the go-to stop for fans who want content that only Tony and crew can deliver. This season promises to be yet another exciting one for the team, the league, the show, and its fans, and we want you to be a part of it. There are sponsorship opportunities to fit your business's goals, 30 and 60-second targeted commercial spots, weekly segments dedicated to promoting your brand, on-air guest opportunities for you to share your company's mission, and so on. We'd love to discuss tailoring a sponsorship program that is just right for you, both in scope and in cost. For sponsorship opportunities, call 703-282-0792 or email info@redmagplus.com. Be a part of this historic season on this historic show, Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus. 39 years and the millions of viewers over those years can't be wrong.
You get a chance to look at the picture. You can see we got some ties up top. This week is going to change. What is it going to change this week, Donna? What do Washington need to do to win?
They've got to come out, Tony, and start fast. That's the end. That's just simply start fast and play a complete game. Alex.
Do whatever you got to do on offense to avoid sacks, max protect, throw screens, don't give up on the run. If you only got 1 or 2 guys in the route, as Gary likes to say, that's plenty. You can't take 6 sacks. Gary.
Play a complete game. It's really simple. Play a complete game. Offense, defense. Play a complete game.
And all I say is you can have results or excuses. You make the call. And if we stay here, we never say goodbye. We say in the minute.
Well, great show today. And we're going to let John Butler, friend of the Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus TV show, take us out with some of his great hits.
You know, life has so many ups and so many downs. And every day we seem like we're going through one thing or another. And for some reason, people try to tell us what to do, when to do, where to do, how to do. and who to do it with, and they forget. They forget that life doesn't always go the same for everyone. And even though we have the same experiences, we always have a different outcome. So I gotta live my life the best that I can and let the rest of it take care of itself. Listen. There are so many changes in life that we all go through. I'm determined to believe that we all gonna make it if we all believe that it's true. Yeah, advice is one thing, experience